I feel like we should all come together as a species and agree that episode 7 of Invincible is not only the best episode of the whole show, but one of the greatest fictional works to ever exist. I mean, it had me on the edge of my seat the whole hour. My toes were curled, I was biting my nails, sweating profusely. It was intense to say the very least. The episode kicks off with a flashback showing how the scumbag Levy was able to survive despite Mark turning his big ass head into a paste. From there on, we see Mark and Eve talking about the events of the previous episode, only for them to get interrupted by a call notifying them about an Invincible attacking the prison. We're shown that and get to see what the other Invincibles are up to as well, and broski,
I would even keep you as a slave in my empire!
Oh. Where did that come from?
all he had to do was commit terrorism. What purpose do these comments serve? So Mark makes it to the prison and eventually meets Movenserhawk. What the fuck is that name? And most importantly, what the fuck is on his head? I swear these are the type of hairstyles only neo-Nazis rock. But that aside, Mark starts asking questions, but instead of answering, Mohawk Mark gets to squabbling. They have a little back and forth, and just when it looked like the Mohawk had the upper hand, that's when Mark knocks him out. But there was no cool-off period for the young man, as he was immediately jumped by these three heroes who thought he was one of the evil Invincibles. And man, they really put him in the blender. I almost thought he was an orphan genius tech billionaire. Fortunately, Mark ends up out of that combo and they body Mohawk Mark off screen. We then see the repercussions of the other Invincibles' actions, those being one broke into the GDA and almost folded Cecil and Donald, which therefore forced Cecil to get extra recruitment to deal with the shit. We also get to see that Debbie finally let Oliver out of the crib to help people. We cut to Mark and Eve and they see her Invincible. Where did they get these names? Being jumped by 5 heroes. So Mark and Eve join in on the fun and start jumping her Invincible. And I have a feeling they're doing this because Mark was still bitter that he got jumped. Therefore, Invincible shows up to level the playing field. He attacks Eve while her Invincible deals with Mark, and the best Eve could do was stay on the defense. So because of that, Mark decides to intervene, which results in a 2v1. But Eve pulls through and gets them off him, and despite the assist, Mark tells her to leave. But obviously, she doesn't listen. Then Herd and Omni recover. Mark gets occupied with a Mark who looks like his design might have been a clan member, while Omni turned Eve's leg into a Rice Krispie. All you heard was that snap, crackle, and pop. And just before he could land the finishing blow on her, Mark stops him, but despite his efforts, she was out cold, and the Mark variants were just them marking him. Fortunately for him, Cecil pulls through and sends in the cyborgs to deal with the Marks. We get to see what the other variants are up to, and turns out one of them was able to take out the Guardians of the Globe. Is anyone surprised? I mean, anyone. Guardians of the Globes, ladies and gentlemen, the most dog shit superhero group to ever exist. And as usual, the Immortal went out very sorry. And the variant responsible for this is no goggles. Okay. I was gonna ignore this, but it's time to address the issue at hand. What the fuck are these names? So we got a Mark who was in prison, so obviously his name would be Invincible. A Mark who has a lot of hair, so his name would be Invincible. A Mark who has a mustache, so obviously his name would be Mustachable. And the one that pisses me off the most is the Omni-Vincible one. He took Omni-Man's mental. His name is Mark, so just call him Omni-Mark. It's that simple. Let's see what other dumb thing they were able to come up with for a variant. Adolf Invincible. Whoa. Now comes the most devastating part of the episode. A week ago, I saw tweets of niggas talking about Rex dying this episode, but I refused to believe it and gaslit myself into believing that they'd adapt the comic differently. But unfortunately, that was not the case. I was stupid for believing a guy who they redeemed and made this likable would not get killed off in a show like this. Broski, it should have been the Immortal. It should have been Kate's worthless ass. What have these niggas actually done in this show that warrants them having a happy ending? Nada, zilch, absolutely nothing. All I can say is, I just hope Bray let him tap that ass before he met his demise. So after all that, the earth is totaled, there's multiple casualties, and anyone who's not brutally fucked up is still in danger of being so. And just when I thought I couldn't dislike Mark anymore, you know what he does? He chooses to stay by Eve's side instead of being in the field. What the fuck? Dog. Eve is in a secure place, surrounded by people who can make sure she is safe, as we've already seen. And this nigga's talking about they could kill her to get at me. Nigga, what about your mom? This dude doesn't even know if Debbie is safe or not. He didn't check in on her once. Oliver is out there. He's strong, but that doesn't mean he can fully take care of himself. Nah, you got it, Mark. I can always count on you to make the most retarded decisions. So after all the bullshit Angstrom orchestrated, he calls a meeting with the remaining variants, and we learn that most of them are genuine dickheads. Committing hate crimes is a hobby for them for sure, but some are not so bad, like the one in the mask. He just wants Debbie back, and this one,
I miss William. Oh, you are gay.
But obviously, the variants turn on Levy, so he sends them to the Wasteland Dimension, leaving him to finish this mission all by himself. And the genuine question I have is, why is this nigga Angstrom so obsessed with this dimension's Mark? The one Invincible who's not evil is the one he chooses to fuck with, but works with the ones he vividly remembers terrorizing people. Man, this nigga and Powerplex have me convinced that Invincible's villains are really dumb as fuck. So Cecil manages to track him down and gives Mark the location, and he did not hesitate. He went there immediately, and they were fighting intensely in the sequence that looks like a video game boss level, where Mark had to avoid Levy's portals while dodging these Big Hero 6 type bots. After a long back and forth, Mark finally has Angstrom by the collar, and in typical fashion, instead of finishing the job, he hesitates, having to be told by Oliver to do so. And this is one of the few times this Captain Ginyu looking motherfucker put a smile on my face. But as expected, Angstrom is able to escape because Mark wanted to kick off a monologue. Nigga, finish the job! Now we get to my favorite part of the episode, which is while Mark was busy helping out with cleaning up, we finally see the arrival of Conquest. Now, me saying I was over the moon when I saw this nigga would be an understatement, because I have been anticipating his arrival for a long ass time, because you know how the Invincible comic readers won't shut the fuck up everywhere on your reels, TikToks, YouTube shorts, just everywhere. So trust and believe, when episode 8 drops, we will be there.